At this point, the rest of the school was buzzing with nervous energy as they crammed for the end-of-year exams. Harry, however, couldn't focus on potions or charms. His mind was consumed by the Gryffindor's simmering resentment. He knew they wouldn't forgive him for abandoning their house, and with the exams looming, there would be no escaping their retribution. A knot of dread tightened in his stomach. No matter how well he did on the tests, they wouldn't shield him from the humiliation that awaited. The brewing tension wasn't lost on Harry's loyal Ravenclaw companions, Philip, Eleanor, Duncan, and Candice. They, along with the rest of their house, wouldn't idly stand by if Gryffindor decided to make a move. Word had even reached the other houses. Hufflepuff and Slytherin, weary of Gryffindor's constant thirst for glory, especially Draco Malfoy, the prideful first-year Slytherin who, to everyone's surprise, had struck up an unlikely friendship with Harry, were rumored to be considering an alliance, a united front against Gryffindor's dominance. The air crackled with anticipation, and Harry, for the first time in weeks, felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps he wouldn't have to face Gryffindor's wrath alone. In the quiet haven of the Ravenclaw common room, Harry and his friends were hunched over their textbooks, their whispers punctuated by the occasional rustle of parchment. Suddenly, the tranquility was shattered by Luna Lovegood's entrance. A massive bag, bulging with files that threatened to topple over, thumped onto the table next to Harry. Luna, her eccentric demeanor as captivating as ever, explained in her dreamy voice that these were the files he'd requested from the restricted section of the library. A hint of mischief sparkled in her usually misty eyes, sending a thrill through Harry. He knew Luna's ability to unearth obscure information could prove invaluable in his schemes to counter the Gryffindor's looming threat. "So, did you get the files?" Harry said to Luna. A tense silence filled the Ravenclaw common room, broken only by the soft crackle of the fireplace. Harry watched Luna, his heart pounding in his chest. Her usual dreamy gaze had solidified into a look of intense concentration, as if she were peering into another world. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Luna turned to Harry, a cryptic smile playing on her lips. "Not exactly what you requested," she began in her characteristic whisper, as she pulled out a huge file from the bag, "but something far more intriguing, I dare say. Perhaps even a hidden weapon in our arsenal against Gryffindor's little vendetta." Excitement bubbled within Harry. Luna's penchant for the extraordinary was well known, and her unexpected detour from his initial plan could hold the key to outsmarting the looming Gryffindor confrontation. He leaned forward, eager to learn what forgotten secrets Luna had unearthed from the restricted section. A gasp shattered the tense silence in the Ravenclaw common room. Eleanor, ever the studious one, had snatched a file from Luna's hand and begun scanning its contents. Her eyes widened in surprise as she stumbled upon a particular section. "Listen to this," she exclaimed, her voice trembling slightly. She proceeded to read aloud, her words painting a picture of a cunning plot devised by the Gryffindors. It detailed a scheme to manipulate Harry into joining their house, and even forming a close friendship with Ron and Hermione. Fury contorted Harry's face as he snatched the file from Eleanor. Scanning the contents, his eyes narrowed at the mention of Dumbledore's involvement. Incredulity battled with a surge of betrayal. "Dumbledore," he choked, his voice laced with disbelief. "He knew about it. Why would he manipulate me like that?" "Because Professor Dumbledore is a conniving old manipulator," Candice cried out. "I mean, even Saruman from The Lord of the Rings wouldn't stoop to such trickery." Duncan's voice, laced with a hint of doubt, pierced the tense silence. "Though," he began, hesitantly, "isn't there more to that story? Didn't Saruman, you know, betray Gandalf and switch sides to Sauron at the very end?" Frustration laced Harry's voice. "It doesn't matter what Saruman did at the end," he spat, shoving the file back into Luna's bag with unnecessary force. "Dumbledore's meddling is enough proof for me. He's going down tonight," him and his little Gryffindor lackeys. Eleanor, ever the voice of reason, tried to interject. Harry, wait. But Harry was already striding out of the common room, a dangerous glint in his eyes. The revelation about Dumbledore had ignited a fire within him, a burning need to confront the headmaster and expose his alleged manipulation. His friends exchanged worried glances, unsure how to stop Harry from his impulsive course of action. A nervous chuckle escaped Philip's lips as he watched Harry storm out. "Hoo boy," he muttered, rising from his chair. "Someone's going to get it now." Eleanor, however, remained rooted to her spot, a frown creasing her brow. "We need to stop him," she said, her voice laced with concern. "Dumbledore might not be innocent, but confronting him like this won't solve anything. It'll only make things worse." Duncan chimed in, his voice laced with worry. "Right, and Harry's not exactly known for his level-headedness when he's angry." Luna, however, remained calm, a hint of her usual dreamy look returning to her eyes. "Don't worry," she said mysteriously, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have a plan." Driven by a surge of anger and suspicion, Harry marched through the castle corridors, his mind fixated on a singular purpose: exposing Dumbledore's deceit. The image of the revered headmaster, as a manipulative puppet master, fueled his determination. Tonight, he would bring Dumbledore, Ron, Hermione, and their Gryffindor cronies crashing down. This time, there would be no last-minute reprieves, no tolerance for their underhanded tactics. A sense of grim satisfaction settled over him, erasing any doubts that lingered in his mind. As he made his way to the library, he saw Jonathan Cavanaugh, Kirk Matheson, and Dudley Dursley standing in the middle of the hall. Dudley said, "Is it true that you're going to fight the Gryffindors?" "My friends are going to fight the Gryffindors," said Harry. "I'm going to fight their boss, Dumbledore." Kirk cried out. "Be careful, Harry, he'll try to manipulate you into joining him." "And what are you guys doing here?" the voice of Neville Longbottom rang out. With him were Stacy Snape and Julia Black. Stacy said, "I don't know what is going on here, but this is dangerous. You can't be doing this." "Oh yes we can," said Harry. "After all, I've had just about enough of Dumbledore and his lies and manipulations. And besides, your bloody classmates dared to plot against me and my friends. For that, they must be punished. You can't intervene here." "We're not here to intervene, only to watch," said Stacy. "Just like they are." Harry gasped as he saw Draco Malfoy, Vincent Crabbe, Gregory Goyle, Sandy Ulrich, Chauncey Barlow, Mona Ulrich, and several other people behind Stacy. Many more people were walking into the library. "And why are you here?" Harry said to Draco. "We're here to witness the ultimate beatdown of Gryffindor House," said Draco. "You better witness the beatdown of Dumbledore's golden band of fools, or I'll give you the beatdown of a lifetime," Stacy snapped at him. "Our fathers may be friends, but that doesn't mean I can't beat you up." By that time, Philip, Eleanor, Duncan, and Candice had approached the library, with Duncan saying, "And why are you guys here?" "I heard that there's going to be a wizard fight," Patrick Harvey said as he joined Sandy and Chauncey. "It's true," Agnes Parker said as she came with Abigail Beaufort, Julian Olsen, and Harley Parkinton. "Harry Potter has had enough of them, and after overhearing several meetings about them wanting to hit him back, I'm pretty sure we all know where this story is going." "Uh-oh, here they come," Jonathan said as he saw 5 people coming into the room. The group consisted of not only Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger, but also Victoria Walsh, Austin Underhill, and Josephine Hunter. They wore looks of anger on their faces. Hermione was the first to speak. "I knew it was too good to be true," she said. "You would dare rise up against me?" "Yeah, he would," Julia snapped at her. "I thought we were friends. But somehow between back then and now, I learned that you were full of nothing. You stabbed us all in the back when you joined Dumbledore, said Harley. How could you do something like that? And to even attempt to lure my best friend Agnes into your group was the worst thing you have ever done. You're going to get exactly what you deserve, and you're going to like it. Also, you side with a Weasley, said Malfoy. Weasleys are the scum of the wizarding world. You would befriend him. This he said while pointing to Ron. You take that back. Ron cried out as he aimed his wand at Malfoy. Watch it, Weasel, said Malfoy. For all we know, you could have corrupted Potter and then made a mess of everything. He would have made a terrible Gryffindor, always relying on his friends, always trusting a manipulative and abusive man. But Harry here chose to go someplace else, where he can make his own choices and not be influenced by anyone. So who is the bigger fool, him or you? Ron waved his wand and tried to hex Draco, but Stacy pulled out his wand and zapped him. Save it for the fight, he said sternly. What fight? Hermione snapped as she glared at Stacy. The fight against the Ravenclaws, said Phil, which means me. You come forward now. He stood in the middle of the room. Harry and the others had thoughtfully cleared the tables and chairs before the fight began. Hermione walked to the middle of the room, shaking nervously as everyone watched her. Phil said to her, I hear you're the smartest student here at Hogwarts. Indeed I am, said Hermione. That's where you're wrong, said Phil. As you can see, everyone in Ravenclaw just happens to be smarter than you. You would have had a better time had you gone into Ravenclaw. But the hat said I should be in Gryffindor, Hermione protested in anger. That's where you're wrong, said Phil as he zapped her. There has been an incident where a student did not go into the house that was assigned to them. Chauncey Barlow went into Slytherin, said Hermione. But before he did that, he had tricked us all into revealing the nature of the housing situation at Hogwarts. Indeed he did, said Phil. He's the type of guy who refuses to stand for any nonsense. But as for you, you are a Muggle-born, are you not? Well, yes, said Hermione. And so am I, said Phil. That never goes away no matter who you are. And you're nothing more than a person who never should have left the States, Hermione snapped at him. Wrong again, said Phil. I'd be nervous if I were you. And there is the matter of who you came from, said Hermione. And that makes 3, said Phil. I know all about you, Hermione Granger. Your parents are dentists. Also, you've spent more time reading the most boring of books, instead of playing outside like the other kids your age. But underneath that, you are cruel and aggressive. I wonder what you did to gain entry into Hogwarts. Let me into your school, or I'll destroy you. Mayhaps. Still, I wonder why you have to act like this. And you, Phil, are descended from slaves and you lived in a country that degraded your people, said Hermione. Your people should have risen up and destroyed that country years ago. How dare she say that? Julia snapped. I'm going to tear her apart. Zap! Hermione screamed as she went flying across the room and landed on a chair that was transfigured into a huge pillow. You lose, said Phil. Even though my parents weren't too big on raising me in a place where African Americans could have a hard time being fully accepted into society, we have always been full of pride. As such, no one is allowed to badmouth the United States of America and live. So, what's the damage? Ravenclaw 1, Gryffindor 0. Harry went to Hermione, taking note of a huge bruise that was on her right cheek that had formed when she had hit the pillow. We could have been friends in another life, but you chose this. You've made a dangerous enemy out of me, and that wasn't fair. To Crabbe and Goyle, he said, tie her up and confiscate her wand. We can't have her escaping and telling wild tales about how she was defeated by a Ravenclaw. As Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle restrained Hermione, Eleanor made her way to the circle. She said, "I choose Ron Weasley to come face me." Immediately Ron made his way into the circle. He stared at Hermione, who was tied up by Crabbe and Goyle, then said to Harry, "You're going to pay for that, Potter." Eleanor zapped him, saying, "Shame on you, Weasley. You can't face him. I'm the only one you should be facing." "Now, what do you know about the Barlow family?" Ron frowned as he answered, "The Barlow family was a pureblood family that was honorable. That was, until a disabled son was born and your father saved a Muggle woman from slavery to an evil wizard. He also killed the wizard and exposed the names of those who were working for him. In anger, one of his children was cursed. The only way to remove the stain of being a blood traitor was to have that disabled son killed. Yet, my parents refused to kill Chauncey," said Eleanor. "Not when killing him could have ruined an entire town. Plus, most people in the world aren't too big on child deaths to begin with." "That's it, he's going down," said Chauncey. "Wait," said Sandy. "I want to see what he does next." "So, do you know anything about the Weasleys?" said Ron. "I know your father studies Muggles, as if they are a science experiment and not people," said Eleanor. "Your mother seems to be nothing more than a cruel witch full of the stereotypical Irish anger. You have 5 older brothers and a younger sister. And you have your parents, 6 older siblings, a set of twins and a set of triplets," Ron said in turn. "Plus a disabled brother named Chauncey, who should have been killed at birth instead of being allowed to live." Eleanor zapped him again. "That was a strike," she said. "You better watch what you say about the Barlow family. Now, why did the dark wizard Volanus attack the Muggles and force them to hand Alarius and Panther over to him?" "He what?" Ron cried out, but Eleanor zapped him again. "Failing to know the correct answer to any question is a sign of weakness," Eleanor said to him. "Volanus wanted to control the Muggles who lived in the States, but my father stopped him. That alone earned him more honor in the wizarding world than anything your father ever did." "Don't insult my father," Ron cried out. "You have 2 strikes against you," said Eleanor. "You're on thin ice, Weasley. One more thing. Who did your family side with during the Grindelwald Wars?" "Well, Grindelwald, I guess," said Ron. "And Louis Thorpe was a fool to resist Grindelwald, and Seamus Lascaux Rose should have remained with Grindelwald like a good slave." "That little weasel," Stacy snapped as he stepped forward. "He is definitely going to pay for that." "Like how?" said Draco. "Nobody insults my grandfather and lives." Stacy snapped. "Nope, they do not." Zap. Eleanor zapped Ron, and he went flying out of the circle, and onto the huge pillow Hermione had landed on a few minutes ago. "You suck tremendously, Weasley," said Eleanor. "I don't even know why you're here, let alone in Gryffindor." "But my whole family expects me to be in Gryffindor," Ron cried out. "Indeed," said Eleanor. "I'll have my siblings, who are in Gryffindor, switch to the other 3 houses and make sure they never go near you. You lose." "Gryffindor 0, Ravenclaw 2, said Kirk. "Who's next?" As Duncan and Candice went to face Victoria and Austin, Harry went to Ron, saying, "I don't think we would have been friends, even if this were another time and another place. Jonathan, Dudley, tie him up and guard him." While Jonathan and Dudley tied Ron up, Sandy said to Chauncey, "Are you okay? I don't know why they say those things about you, and they're not even true." "No, I'm not okay, and I'm absolutely going to kick Ron's, but for even suggesting that," said Chauncey. "The way I see it, I'm going to go after him when he least expects it. And when that happens, he'll only have himself to blame." "I'll make sure of that," said Patrick. "Believe me, I will." Duncan said to Austin, "You think you're a hero, aren't you?" "Well, you're not," said Austin. "In fact, being a hero is something you're born with," not something you can find with a dictionary. Duncan zapped him and said, My, someone who has no concept of knowing what a hero is. For shame. As for Victoria and Candice, both girls discarded their wands and tried to physically knock each other out the circle. How dare you insult my family? Candice cried out in anger. Your family, said Victoria. Your family is so stupid. All they do is hide themselves from the world and play with fairies all day. Wrong answer, Candice said as she shoved Victoria out of the circle. She landed next to Ron. Luna rushed over and secured her as Duncan sent Austin flying out of the circle. As Kirk was securing Austin, Josephine said to everyone staring at me, Why you all looking at me? I'm not getting involved in this. Harry soon found himself facing Neville. You don't want me to fight you? Harry cried out. No, said Neville. Why not, said Harry. You're a Gryffindor and I'm a Ravenclaw. All the Gryffindors hate me for going into Ravenclaw. Why don't you hate me? Because I realize that you and we're cut from the same cloth, said Neville. We share the same birthday, the same life circumstances, the same destiny. Like how? Phil cried out. Harry and I were both born on July 31st, said Neville. But that's only the beginning. The Dark Lord killed Harry's parents, and his captain tortured my parents to insanity. We both had to grow up as orphans. For some reason, Dumbledore forced the hat to put me in Gryffindor, when I should have been placed in Hufflepuff. I wonder why you never went into Gryffindor. Because there's always a third choice, said Harry. In your case, it's either Gryffindor or Hufflepuff. So why not take the third path, the path of wisdom? Why can't the hero be wise? He doesn't need to seek out adventure or sit on the sidelines. He doesn't always need an old wizard sitting over his shoulder giving him advice. In choosing Ravenclaw, I have chosen my own life path. Perhaps you can choose your own life's path. Such words of wisdom from someone who is still young, Albus Dumbledore said as he entered the room. Yet, he has continuously refused such a generous offer I've set before him. And what would that offer be, if it be but a bully, a stupid weasel, and 3 losers who are so clueless a preschooler could outdo them, said Harry. Now once again, I'm going to say this. You will never again try to take me away from my house or my friends. If you try to do that after I have given you this warning, I will have no choice but to destroy you. You don't want that, or do you? No, I most certainly don't want that, said Dumbledore. But what I do want is for me to be your happy little warrior, who depends on you and only you. Harry snapped back at him. Well, guess what? I'm not one for fighting, since I don't like to fight to begin with. Does it look like I want to fight some imagined evil? This so-called Lord Voldemort people are talking about is probably a hothead trying to scare people. I don't like people like him, and I really don't like people like you. You think you can just show up and tell me how to live my life? You have killed more people in your life than he had in less than 3 years. How can I sit there and let you run the world? You're on thin ice here, Albus Dumbledore. So know this, the moment the truth about me is revealed, the end of your days will begin. He then left the library, leaving the old wizard high and dry. Cheers and excited whispers filled the Ravenclaw common room, a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere that had gripped them just days ago. News of their victory against Gryffindor resonated through the room, morphing into a glorious legend with each retelling. Harry, Philip, Eleanor, Duncan, and Candice weren't simply victors. They were now legendary heroes who'd outmaneuvered and outsmarted their rivals. Their triumph wasn't just over Ron and Hermione, even the formidable Victoria Walsh and her teammates couldn't withstand the Ravenclaw onslaught. The humiliation they'd inflicted upon Gryffindor was epic, a delicious rumor spreading like wildfire through the castle corridors. "Did you hear? Harry Potter absolutely demolished them," shrieked a first-year Ravenclaw, his voice barely containing his excitement as he addressed a group of wide-eyed students. "Not just Harry," a Ravenclaw prefect interjected, lowering their voice for dramatic effect. The entire Ravenclaw team played like champions. They wiped the floor with Gryffindor. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Gryffindor, the house known for its unwavering pursuit of glory and their seemingly untouchable Quidditch prowess, had been brought down by Ravenclaw, a house often underestimated for their academic pursuits. It was a story that would be retold for years to come, a turning point that shattered Gryffindor's dominance and solidified Ravenclaw's place as a formidable contender. "I hate to disappoint you all, but this story isn't over yet," said Harry. "We may have defeated them for now, but they're not going to take this defeat lying down. The retribution will be swift and hard, so we all better be ready for when that happens." A hush fell over the Ravenclaw common room as Harry's words cut through the celebratory din. "Whoa, hold on a minute, Harry," interjected Eleanor, a crease forming in her brow. "We won fair and square. Gryffindor might be sore losers, but surely they wouldn't stoop to something underhanded, would they?" Harry's gaze flickered with a cold glint. "Don't underestimate Gryffindor's thirst for revenge, Eleanor. They might not win a straight-up duel, but they'll find some way to make us pay for this." A murmur of apprehension rippled through the room. The elation of victory began to curdle with a sense of unease. "So, what do we do?" asked Duncan, voicing the unspoken question. Harry's lips curled into a determined smirk. "We stay vigilant. We train harder, think smarter, and be prepared for anything they throw our way. This might be the first battle won, but the war with Gryffindor is far from over." Everyone frowned, knowing that even though Harry and his team had put an end to Gryffindor's scheme for now, the knowledge that Dumbledore, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger were trying to force Harry into Gryffindor had left a lingering sense of betrayal. A cloud of suspicion hung over their victory, a constant reminder that their allies might not be as trustworthy as they seemed. The camaraderie they once shared now felt strained, tainted by the revelation of Gryffindor's manipulation. The celebration died down, replaced by a sobering realization: the true test of their loyalty was yet to come.